This is CBC Here and Now.
You probably do not want to be out in this. Winds are picking up, so stay in, stay safe, and I'll bring you all sides of the storm from out here.
I advise people to stay off the road because it's really dangerous.
It's a very blustery, cold, stormy day on the west coast of the island. I'll show you what it's like in Corner Brook.
Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. I'm Anthony Germain.
And I'm Carolyn Stokes. Well, the island is under multiple winter warnings tonight. We have wind, we have blowing snow and winter storm warnings and a snow squall watch.
On the Avalon, the storm started picking up steam this afternoon. Here and Now's Katie Breen is out in the thick of it right now. So Katie, I can see what it's like. How does it look like out there for you?
Well, you know what? It's happening. I was so convinced all day today that this storm was not going to happen because in St. John's we've been having such a great winter. But here it was. It materialized. It happened. The snow's coming down. The wind's blowing, making it kind of hard to see, but it's full on now. And the English school district today, they knew that this thing was coming. Out west, they canceled schools most of the day. And then here in around St. John's, they canceled schools for the afternoon. So I went around to Kiss and Ride lanes looking for some parents to see what they thought a half-day snow days. How many kids do you have in school?
6.
6 kids? Oh my gosh! That must be a lot to coordinate.
Yes.
So what are you gonna do with everyone when you get home today?
Cook, clean, read with my children.
What happens to you when it's a snow day like this?
I'm lucky because this happens to be my day off, so it worked out that I'm able to come get them. If not, we'd probably have to phone the grandparents and see if they could stop by and get the kids.
No, this is pretty good because we knew in advance that it was going to close at this time. And it's really not snowing, so it's not a big deal for me. I'll be home anyway.
Not so bad for me because I have 2 other little kids at home. So yeah, it just changes that we're all going to be home together, stuck in the house for the afternoon. But we'll get creative and hopefully we can get some snow out of it that we can actually, go sliding with and stuff like that.
How much do you think that gets done, or how much do you think the classes achieve in the mornings?
That's hard to say because if the kids are going home early, they're thinking probably more about going home than about what they're trying to learn.
They achieve a little, but probably not the best. But in my opinion, would be like if we know it's gonna be a bad day like this, maybe you should shut everything down. There's no point having half day.
So yeah, not all parents are sold on snow afternoons. Later on in the show, I'm gonna head to the St. John's International Airport where they've bought a new $1.1 million snowblower. They're hoping that decision is productive. I'll have that story coming up in 35 minutes. Reporting live in St. John's, I'm Katie Breen for Here and Now.
Well, as Katie mentioned, weather isn't only hitting the Avalon today. Over on the west coast of the island, blustery conditions and poor visibility. Well, that closed the highways and most of Corner Brook shut down. Here Now's Colleen Connors was out in that mess, and she has this report.
Blowing snow, high winds, you can barely see parts of the road. Schools were closed for the day, and a lot of businesses closed their doors to the public.
Yeah, she's sliding all over the place now. And she's in traction control right now.
Weather like this doesn't stop Derek Baldwin from scooting around side streets. He always drives in the bad weather, but wouldn't recommend anyone else do it.
I advise people to stay off the road if you can stay off, unless it's absolutely necessary to go out because it's really dangerous.
It's slick, it's slippery, freezing rain mixed with 10 centimeters of snow plus high winds, a perfect mixture for poor driving. The heavy snow and high winds is making it very difficult to see anything in Corner Brook today, but it gets even worse west of here. Plows have been taken off the highway in certain sections because it's just too stormy to operate. Roads east and north of Corner Brook are no better.
One of our drivers just come down from Pasadena, and he said the visibility was getting really, really dangerous. And he come close to having this pull over and wait for it to settle down, but he kept going, but he went to a crawl.
Police warn of whiteout conditions on the northern peninsula. This winter weather is here to stay, with more flurries and wind in the forecast. Colleen Connors, CBC News, Corner Brook.
Well, what a day, and as you heard Colleen say, there are more flurries in the forecast and lots of wind throughout the week. But for now, let's have a look at all of those warnings that we told you about a little bit earlier. This is the situation right now in the province, at least on the island, of blowing snow advisory in place up through the Norman Bay area and the western portion of the Northern Peninsula and for parts of central Grand Falls down through Clarenville. Winter storm warning for much of the island, the eastern portion of the Northern Peninsula right down to the Burin Peninsula there, and that wind warning also in place, gusts up to 100 kilometers an hour overnight tonight. So things will start to ease though as we get later on into the evening. Around 10 o'clock we should see this start to taper off to some flurries and the winds should start to die down. But for the south coast tomorrow, the southern Avalon over the Burin and Conegra areas, there is this snow squall warning still in place. So that's for tonight and through to tomorrow. So it's going to continue to stay pretty blustery there tomorrow. And we have a blizzard warning in place for Makovic and Hopedale and really right along the coast of Labrador. This is starting tomorrow night, so they're going to get walloped with some wind and some snow. I'll get into those details a bit later. Anthony?
Thanks, Carol. Changes could be coming to how political parties raise money in this province, and it might come before this year's election. Today, the government announced a new all-party committee on democratic reform. It's going to look at online voting, how to get more people involved in politics, but will also look at limiting or banning corporate and union donations. Other provinces have banned companies from donating to parties, but Justice Minister Andrew Parsons thinks that's going a little too far.
Getting rid of it altogether, I'm not sure if I support that completely. I think that at least a cap is a really good step forward in the right direction. The fact is, we had to put out to people, put out to you folks now that are watching, which is if it's not paid for this way, it will be paid for by the public, and does the public have that demand?
Well, meanwhile, the two opposition parties wonder why the Liberals waited so long to start this process, especially with an election possibly just weeks away.
Now it's an empty exercise, so the Liberal government under Dwight Ball can check a box and say it's fulfilled its promises. Well, there's no time for this committee to actually do anything. So it's an empty exercise, and it's dishonest politics.
It's cheating. This is cheating the people of the province, and the people of the province are not fooled by this. This is a government that's in power, and their only goal is to hold on to that power.
The Royal Newfoundland Constabulary Association says it strongly disagrees with last week's conviction of Constable Joe Smythe. Smythe was found guilty of obstruction of justice on Friday. The charge relates to a traffic stop 2 years ago when Smythe ticketed a driver for running a red light even though the light was green. The Constabulary Association says police should be held to a higher standard, but there is also a responsibility to ensure that its members are treated fairly. The group will continue to support Smythe during the appeal process. Smythe was also the subject of a public inquiry after he shot and killed Don Dunphy in 2015.
Crown prosecutors are seeking jail time against Northwest River's former town clerk. Holly Flowers has pleaded guilty to theft of over $5,000 and breach of public trust. Over $70,000 disappeared from the town's coffers between 2014 and 2016. Flowers quit without notice when an auditor asked her to account for the money. Later, Flowers became town clerk in Rigolette, but was suspended without pay when these charges came to light. Her husband, Timothy Blake, is also facing a related theft charge. Blake served on Northwest River's town council for 10 months. At the same time the money went missing, Blake has not yet entered a plea.
Environmental groups took the province's oil regulator to court today. They contend that an oil company has become a squatter on valuable public lands and that the regulator has broken the law to allow it. Here now Zach Gowdy with the details.
In the Gulf of St. Lawrence lies the Old Harry oil and gas field. Corridor Resources won a 9-year license for exploratory drilling there, but as the license was set to expire in 2016, the company hadn't drilled a single well. The Canada-Newfoundland Offshore Petroleum Board issued the company a new license, a move that environmental groups say was illegal. In Supreme Court today, Eco-Justice took on the CNLOPB. Acting on behalf of clients including the Suzuki Foundation and the Sierra Club, the group argued that Corridor Resources had become a squatter, occupying valuable public lands while not using them and paying nothing.
This is about respect for rule of law and resource management and a clear 9-year limit that the law imposes for resource companies to either show that they can explore in an environmentally responsible manner or get off the land.
The Old Harry project was halted last year after Corridor Resources failed to attract business partners. The company also cited data showing the site may not be as oil-rich as previously hoped. But in court this morning, the CNLOPB maintained it did nothing wrong by granting the company a new exploration license. The case had to be put on hold due to the incoming weather in St. John's. Lawyers for the company and the province will resume their arguments tomorrow. Environmental groups have long been opposed to drilling in the Gulf of St. Lawrence. If this challenge is successful, Ecojustice says it would create an opportunity to set a new course away from resource development in the area and towards conservation.
Let's remember what's at stake here, which is the future of one of Canada's most fragile ecosystems. This is about what happens in the Gulf of St. Lawrence, which is home to a plethora of endangered species. The future of that region is in the balance.
Zach Gowdy, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, what do you do with an old abandoned fish plant? If you're an Ottawa businessman with a love of Newfoundland, then you make plans to make beer. Here Now's Garrett Barry takes a tour with the man who's betting big on salvage.
Hard to see it now.
And it can all be converted into a restaurant, bar, brewery section.
But give him a year or two.
Not just 2 floors. We could have 3 stories here. Of living space, storage space, learning space.
He says this place will be buzzing. Yes, an old fish plant. There's a metaphor.
We've got to look at our tourism industry here like the cod industry used to be. There's more and more tourists coming down the road. They're like a wave of fish coming at us. And if we take care of them, if we look after them, they'll come back, they'll tell their friends, and there'll be more and more tourists.
And this is the $1 million view. This is the reason why Mearns is betting his own money he can turn Salvage into a tourist destination.
Great stores and stages. There's great houses, all well kept and maintained. And it's picture postcard perfect.
On Saturday, he told the community of his plans.
You can leave your door unlocked, there's nothing to it. But when you get a lot of big volume of people coming there, different from all over the world, what's going to happen, right? That's my thought. And I hope, keep my fingers crossed, I hope everything goes smooth as silk.
It's a place with a lot of history that's seen a fire, a rebuild, and a shutdown. So Mearns has a tough job ahead of him.
If he can create some work, maybe some of the people that moved away to go work somewhere else, it might entice them to come back and seek employment at his place.
It won't be a huge economic driver, but Mearns says it will pay taxes, provide jobs, and it will be a good neighbor, and it will be open next year. Garrett Barry, CBC News, Salvage.
This is not your grandfather's Lego. This is new age Lego.
If you can dream it, you can build it. Just make sure whatever you do, you don't step on it.
Ouch. We'll take you to a showcase of incredible Lego architecture in St. John's.
And later in the show, addiction treatment by air.
We'll meet the doctor heading to far-flung places to work with opioid addicts who can't get help anywhere else.
This weather forecast is brought to you by Newfoundland and Labrador Tourism. 5,000 kilometers of groomed trails are waiting to be explored. Embrace winter today.
Well, before we get to the wild weather forecast, we have something to show you.
Absolutely. A lot of kids across the island got at least a partial snow day today with all of the school closures. Not sure what you did with your kids, but check this out.
Okay, watch the amazing marble maze. It's going to be epic.
Well, one kid in the United States got pretty creative with his time off.
Lindsay Thiessen shared this video of how her husband and son spent their day. So as you saw that, set up a little obstacle course so the ball rolls down there. And you're wondering, okay, what is the point of all this? Well, take a look at the intricacy of this. All right, I thought I was a good dad putting a movie on. And now you got to compete with this? I mean, this is a feat of engineering.
Oh, wow.
Okay, and it goes up the mantle, the loop-de-loop, then a smaller marble projectile, plop into the cup, round and round and round she goes. There it is. Comes out the other end, and as you see, there's more stuff, not to mention a little plug for Volkswagen stuffed in there. Knock over the wooden bricks, and you see him jumping up and down for joy, and it is Happy Snow Day.
Wow.
Yeah.
I wonder how much time it took them to. It must have been the entire snow day.
Plus, the dad deserves an Emmy for the camera work on that. It was fantastic.
Yeah, because
right?
you can't miss a beat with that.
You want to see? Take two. Set them up again.
No take two there.
Yeah. So there you go. The bar set pretty high for what you're doing with your kids on a snow day.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, so much snow today. Lots of people staying indoors, hopefully.
No
doubt. For sure. So
I feel really guilty.
Why?
Because we've got Katie out in the snow, right? We had Colleen out in the snow. You're doing double duty tonight. I feel like the spoiled baby of here now.
It's all part of the job, isn't it?
Age has its perks. Yeah.
Well, things
Take it away.
Okay. Things are going to start to calm down, though. I'm going to start with a look at our weather on the way headlines. So we are looking at a pretty persistent wind this week on the island. So pretty much every day is going to be fairly windy for the south coast. Snow squalls tonight and tomorrow. And for coastal Labrador, things are going to get pretty nasty up there tomorrow night and then continuing for a few days until Thursday. So let's have a look at the situation right now. You can see still pretty blustery out there on the west coast and the Avalon Peninsula there. Things will start to taper off overnight tonight, but we do still have these warnings in place for now. Windy for the Avalon, gusts up to 100 with lots of blowing snow. Visibility really not great anywhere on the island tonight. So we have the blowing snow in central areas and a winter storm warning for much of the interior Burin Peninsula. And there are some snow squalls to watch for along the south coast there. So lots and lots going on for sure. But you can see here Monday, 6 o'clock. Things are pretty snowy, but it will start to ease as we get into the overnight hours, particularly for central areas in the northeast coast and the Avalon. But snow will continue up along the straits overnight tonight. So we're looking at about another 5 centimeters for the St. John's area, an overnight low of -4. Winds gusting up to 80, but that should start to ease overnight tomorrow and then ramp up again tomorrow morning. We're looking at about 2 centimeters for the Marystown area. For central, Grand Falls, Windsor, 5 centimeters there. 5 to 10 up along the straits in the St. Anthony area for tonight and 5 centimeters for the west coast. And winds still pretty strong there. We have an easterly wind, 60, but it could gust up to 120 there. Ruckhouse saw gusts of 160 kilometers an hour this morning, so it was not great there for sure. For Labrador, some snowy weather overnight tonight, 5 to 10 centimeters for the Cartwright area. Winds not so bad there, though gusts up to 40 kilometers an hour there. Very cold in Labrador City, as you're used to, with an overnight wind chill of -20. 27, 5 centimeters of snow expected there as well as in Happy Valley Goose Bay tonight. And as we get into tomorrow, it's going to stay pretty snowy, lots of flurry action, particularly along the south coast. That's going to be quite blustery there tomorrow, as well as on the west coast and up the northern peninsula there, and some snow moving in and continuing for parts of Labrador. So this is the situation tomorrow. St. John's, the winds are going to ramp up again in the morning, gusts up to 70 with some flurry action throughout the day. For the southern Avalon, the Marystown area, a risk of snow squalls there. 2 to 4 centimeters of snow expected, but could see up to 10 centimeters in those snow squalls, as well as for Harbour Breton, a very similar situation setting up there. Chance of some flurries throughout the day for central parts of the island. For the west coast, about 2 centimeters of snow expected for Corner Brook tomorrow. Winds will lighten up significantly. We're looking at about 15 kilometers variable winds there tomorrow. Some more snow for the Straits, 10 to 15 centimeters there. And for the rest of Labrador, looking at 2 to 4 centimeters for Lab City. So you can see all of the flurry action really throughout the day. And then as we get into Tuesday night, we do have this weather coming. I'll get into those details a bit later. Anthony?
Thanks, Carolyn. Lego lovers of all ages came together this weekend for a one-day display of elaborate creations by local builders. You saw earlier in the show, of course, that inside thing with that American kid. Same theme here. The Newfound Lego Users Group hosted the showcase, and organizers say that the exhibit is growing in popularity, and they say that's not so surprising because Lego is, after all, one of the most popular toys of all time, with an appeal to kids of all ages. We'll hear now Cease Hare, who's really just a big kid at heart. He insisted on this assignment. Here's his report.
Tens and tens of thousands of little plastic construction bricks all put together, in some cases creating moving parts and moving systems, all on display at the specialty store Bricks and Minifigs this past Saturday. Nothing like the original Legos, though, that first came out in North America decades ago.
This is not the Lego of the 60s. This is not your grandfather's Lego. This is new age Lego. A lot of the motorized gives us the ability of creating models that have the ability to do jobs that exist in real life.
The basic concept of the popular children's toy hasn't changed. Individual parts connected together to make models. Commercial sets can be purchased, but advanced Lego users create their own works of art from scratch, just like most in this exhibit. Like this medieval village made up of approximately 20,000 pieces.
It's a project that I'd started like a year ago, sort of thing, but I continually, build and add on and more elements and more parts to it as I go. And I still have some plans to evolve it and to grow it a little more. So it's kind of fun to have a project that keeps getting bigger and bigger. The problem is you run out of space after a while.
While the concept behind the toy hasn't changed, Lego has done its work keeping the product relevant with movie and TV-themed sets. And then, of course, there's computer software that's available. So you can make virtual creations using virtual pieces before building the real thing. Despite the digital advances, though, local creators argue the simple appeal for kids is creativity and imagination.
We had a little boy who brought in his own creation this morning, wanted us to take a look at it when he heard that the Lego creators were here. And he had the swords for wings. And I was like, that's it, kid. You do it. You got to find the weirdest use for your piece and put it together.
Cease Hare, CBC News, St. John's.
It was to say, I'm sorry, I don't take diabetics. People would have a problem with that, and they should have a problem with that. So I would hope that all physicians and nurse practitioners would step up to the plate and do more.
A doctor buys an airplane so that he can reach drug addicts in remote parts of the province. Find out why.
My name is Rebecca, and I had an LVAD implanted when I was just 16 years old.
We're checking back in with people who have overcome some major life challenges.
I remember being very afraid to get this procedure done. I tried to run away at one point.
This is My Story, a new series with segments every 2 weeks on Here and Now.
And this is my story.
Rebecca Norman, coming up on February 27th.
Welcome back. A Springdale doctor is taking to the skies to reach opioid addicts in remote corners of the island.
It's a radical approach to help people who otherwise wouldn't be able to access drug treatment. Chris O'Neill Yates has that story.
So Shane, how's it going?
Good.
Excellent. Good. Any updates since we saw you last?
Yeah, I enjoyed every part of my Christmas for the first time in my life.
Shane Murphy's addiction started with opioids for pain. But before long, they weren't controlling the pain. They were controlling him, destroying his life, his family.
We're going to keep you on the same dose that you've been on. It seems to be working.
Yeah.
Help was 300 kilometers away in St. John's.
Excellent.
Yeah. Then,
These two guys were very good friends of mine, and they were into addiction a lot harder than me, which I didn't think you could get any harder. But yeah, they were harder than me, and they actually come a long way. And they knew how much I suffered. They come and knocked on my door and said, here's his number.
the number on that card was Dr. Todd Young's.
These are good people. These are people that have gotten off the path and are just asking for a chance to restart their lives, really.
So your next appointment is February the 6th, so we'll be back out here then.
Perfect. Thank you so
see
much.
You then.
Have a great day.
Yeah, take care.
We'll leave this last seat here.
As a family doctor, Young noticed a huge gap in addictions treatment, especially in rural Newfoundland communities. The wait times can be 6 to 8 months or more. Young decided to do something about it. Recently, he actually bought his own plane. He did the math, and it made economic sense. Now he can get to more places faster.
To drive to Marystown today, for example, would have been at least 7 hours, weather permitting.
This new plane has cut that down to under an hour. Young says he does it because he believes these people could be any of us, or someone we love. Young treats more than 500 addictions patients, up to 120 patients some days in his 8 pop-up clinics in rural communities. He treats their opioid addiction with methadone or Suboxone, and he'll stick with everyone as long as it takes to get them clean.
We've got a rapid access program where patients can actually, from the time of referral, whatever source it is, they can be started on treatment within 5 days.
Okay, Maxine, who's next?
The need is great. Doctors write more opioid prescriptions per capita in Newfoundland and Labrador than anywhere else in the country. The frustration of not being able to get help fast enough means many people stop trying. People like Kimberly Boland.
It was just a very hard road, to the point where I just didn't want to live no more. So I started when I was 15. Never ever heard of addiction, didn't know what it was. Just, being around friends and they say, try this, try that, more or less, and then I just couldn't get away from it.
Treatment wasn't available in this area until Young showed up.
When I first seen him, he said, I started crying, and he said, don't go getting discouraged, he said, because everything will be okay. And nobody says that to you when it comes to addiction. Nobody, but he did, and it makes a huge difference. It really do.
Kimberly has strong motivation to get clean. She lost custody of her son when he was 6 months old. Now he's 4, and she recently got him back full time because she's getting treatment.
I don't want he to grow up saying, my mom was an addict, but he's the one that motivated me most likely, right? Because before I had him getting clean, you always had to have a reason to want to do that.
Everybody has a story. And I think, as you go through life yourself, you kind of take a few knocks sometimes. And with those, you kind of appreciate some of the battles that other people have.
This is one of our testing cups.
But Young's treatment also holds patients accountable for getting well. Addictions counselor Craig Wiseman shows us the on-the-spot drug testing that they do.
We used to send their urines off to the lab for testing, but we found we weren't getting the test results back as quickly as we would like to be able to monitor them properly.
This simple test reveals if they've been using drugs they shouldn't be using, and whether they're taking their prescribed addiction medication.
There's never surprises because they tell us the truth before we even have the results. They're honest people because they've gone through a time where they have lived a lie, and they're tired of that, and they enjoy the honesty. Hi, Nicole. How are you?
I'm
Nice
good.
to see
How
you.
are you?
Good. So, Nicole, how are things going?
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll be 2 years clean in a couple days on January 11th.
How's the methadone?
It's good.
Yeah. What dose are you on now?
The instant urine test means Young knows Nicole Skinner is taking her methadone.
Have you had any concerns with, anxiety, depression?
No.
Nicole started taking drugs when she was 15. She's 22 now. When she tried to quit, she encountered a common roadblock.
It completely changed my life, this program. Like before I seen Dr. Young, I was put on a wait list for about a year and a half to see somebody, a methadone doctor in Corner Brook.
That's hours away. But Nicole got an appointment with Young in just 2 days. Now she's been clean for 2 years.
A big improvements. Like I'm not sick every day when I wake up. I don't think about drugs 24/7. Like I'm completely different mindset right now. Like I can't even think about going back to the way it was before. Like I don't know. I can only encourage people to get help and to try and make their lives better because there's no way to live at all. There's no way to live.
A lot of doctors don't want to treat people who have addictions. Why do you want to treat them?
If I was to say, I'm sorry, I don't take diabetics, people would have a problem with that, and they should have a problem with that. So I would hope that all physicians and nurse practitioners would step up to the plate and do more. Lobbying the physician.
The payoffs for all of us are huge, says Young.
Crime rates go down, relationships improve, children have their parents back. Children that have been in custody for a while end up getting reunited with their parents.
I'm doing school again now. Like, I got my life back, my family, my friends, all that stuff. Like, nobody wanted nothing to do with me for a long time.
Back on the plane, Young is making plans to open 2 new clinics in Labrador within the next couple of months, tackling the opioid crisis one community at a time. Chris O'Neill-Yates, CBC News, Marystown, Newfoundland.
The St. John's International Airport has a new super-sized snow blower. They say this thing is going to make a huge difference. I'll dig into that after the break.
Welcome back to Here and Now. Well, the St. John's International Airport is putting its new $1.1 million snowblower to the test today.
Now, that machine arrived a couple of weeks ago, but they haven't had to use it here in St. John's on enough snow.
Of course, snow is falling right now.
And Here and Now's Katie Breen is still out there in it. So, Katie, how big of a difference is this super snowblower going to make?
Well, put it this way. When we had a storm before with the old blowers, it could take days to clear the airfield. Now with this new rig, they say it could take as little as 12 hours. This thing bites through 4-foot snowdrifts at 40 kilometers an hour. I mean, just look at how big it is.
This is the newest addition to our fleet. This is an ATI Snowwolf snowblower, airfield snowblower, made in Southport, Manitoba.
How much snow can this thing move?
Metrically, we call 7,500 tons per hour. So in layman's terms, somewhere between 350 and 400 dump trucks per hour, this thing will move. It drives into the snowbank and just comes out the chute there.
So it just chomps it?
It does, yeah. It's designed to drive into the snow at high speed, and the large auger that you'll see there in the center does the work.
And how does this thing compare to like what you used to have in the fleet or what you still have in the fleet?
We've got 3 different kind of snowblowers here. This one should be at least twice as good.
So how will it change people's flight paths? Like if you have a big snowstorm coming, you think people will get in and out with ease now that you have this here?
Our objective is to have the best conditions possible for the carriers. This will certainly contribute to giving us an improved level of service, and hopefully that'll equate to more reliable flights for the passengers.
So I tried asking if this thing could do my driveway. The airport said that it would probably only take about 10 seconds to do it, but it's not for hire. Says it won't work on the city streets either because it's just too big, too powerful. It would blast snow 200 feet and probably break out a lot of windows, but hey, you can always ask. Katie Breen, CBC News, St. John's.
This weather update is brought to you by Beltone, helping the world hear better.
Borrow that snowblower tonight, actually, if we could get. Now, just before we get to local weather with Carolyn, powerful windstorm has been sweeping across southern Ontario.
Yeah, the winds started to pick up on Sunday and continued up until this morning, and it was especially fierce in the Niagara region where winds were gusting well over 100 kilometers an hour.
That's amazing. So strong that large pieces of ice you saw there were blowing over the retaining wall from the lake, just getting pushed up by the power of Mother Nature in the water. I'm expecting like some giant reptilian monster in a movie to come poking out of that.
Absolutely.
That is amazing.
Wow. We have a lot of ice in this province right now, too, up along the straits and everything. Lots of ice. Probably going to be a story.
We hope to have that on Here and Now, maybe tomorrow or Wednesday.
Yeah, absolutely. But for now, let's have a look at the weather, starting with the current wind chill, because it is quite chilly out there. If you're in St. John's, it feels like -12 right now, but Happy Valley, Goose Bay, and Labrador City really cold with a -21, -20 wind chill at the moment. So looking ahead to tomorrow, it's going to stay pretty messy in some places, particularly along the south coast of the island and up along the straits with some persistent snow for the Burin Peninsula and Conegra and the southern Avalon, looking at the potential for some snow squalls there tomorrow and up along the straits. That snow is just going to continue to fall. So we do have a snow squall watch in place there. So for the St. John's area, we could see some blustery weather as well. Winds ramping up again in the morning, 50 gusting to 70 tomorrow. So chances some flurries throughout the day, but it could be a bit blustery. In the central areas, going to calm down a bit. A chance of some flurries there continuing throughout the day. Marystown could see upwards of 10 centimeters of snow in those snow squalls tomorrow. For the Port aux Basques area, it's going to stay pretty windy there. Gusts up to 100 in that area. But if you're in Corner Brook, things should calm down tomorrow, looking at a variable wind throughout the day, gusting up to 15 kilometers an hour. And up along the straits and for the rest of Labrador, some wind continuing in the straits area, about 5 to 10 centimeters of snow expected there. Tomorrow, Happy Valley, Goose Bay, the snow will continue as well as in Labrador City. So we do have these warnings in place, a special weather statement for the entire coast and a blizzard warning for Makovic, the Hopedale area. Now this is starting tomorrow night. and it's really going to continue on for the next few days. Let's just see how it's going to play out. If you look along the Labrador coast there, you can see that the snow and the wind is just going to be pretty relentless over the next few days. And for the west coast of the island, those onshore flurries continuing as well, and everyone is going to see a windy Wednesday. We could see gusts up to 70 for many areas on the island and in Labrador. So very blustery throughout the week. Temperatures on the island between -6 and -1 there, -2 for St. John's. -18 in Lab City. But as we head into Thursday, things do start to clear off on the island. Those flurries continuing for eastern Labrador along the coast. But looking into the 5-day forecast, when we get to Thursday, it should clear off for the east, but it will stay windy. It's going to stay windy on Thursday, and it's going to stay windy on Friday, and then things should start to ease as we head into the weekend. And temperatures not too bad. They're around -5, -4 for much of the week. For central areas, a chance of flurries for Thursday. Going to be windy there as well. Wind continuing on Friday and some clearing on Saturday. For the west coast, Friday looking quite nice there with a mix of sun and cloud for Friday and Saturday, and those winds should ease there as well. As we head up into Labrador, very similar story. The winds continuing into Thursday and then starting to clear off as you head into the weekend. And for the west, temperatures cooler there, -17 on Thursday and clearing as well as we head into the weekend. So lots of wind to come, but things are looking nice as we head into the weekend. Anthony?
Well, Carolyn, giving you a sense of the forecast heading into this coming weekend, but over this past weekend, it was cold. But that didn't stop a fundraiser from taking place in St. John's. More than 350 people bundled up for a walk called the Coldest Night of the Year. It's the 6th annual event for Choices for Youth, and they raised $45,000 by bracing themselves against a wind chill that was in the -20s. Now, all that money that was raised, that's going to support shelters as well as outreach programs for young people who face poverty, abuse, and trauma. And the whole point of this event tries to give people a sense of what it is that young homeless people have to face.
It's called the Coldest Night of the Year because it gives you just a hint. It gives walkers just a hint of what it's like to be outside walking in the cold, to know what it's like to be hungry and homeless and hurting in your community. And after they leave here at Atlantic Place, they'll be ended up at our outreach center. So that's the shelter for our young people to drop in and get a hot meal, and our walkers are going to experience that.
High winds, blowing snow, and poor visibility are being blamed for a multi-vehicle crash on a major highway north of Toronto. More than 70 vehicles, including several tractor trailers, were involved in this pileup on Highway 400 near Barrie, Ontario, about 100 kilometers north of Toronto. One of the trucks has spilled about 500 liters of diesel fuel. Minor injuries are reported. Police say visibility in the area dropped to 0 at times.
An Alberta woman with disabilities is taking action after a grocery store told her not to come back unless she brought help with her. Now, due to her limited mobility, Linda Ralston had difficulty packing her groceries, and the staff refused to help her out. Well, the company later offered her $100 in compensation. Of course, there was a condition. She had to stay quiet about this. Instead, Ralston has decided to go public. Rosa Marcatelli has her story.
Surgery that removed her voice box due to cancer left Linda Ralston unable to speak without a voice prosthesis.
I was cut from shoulder to shoulder, so I can't move my arms and shoulders very well.
That's made tasks like packing her groceries at her local No Frills store hard. She says when she asked for help, staff told her they were too busy.
There are more than 250 No Frills grocery stores across the country, and as the name suggests, they're meant to be nothing fancy. The idea is you pay lower prices, and in exchange you do things like pack your own groceries.
But when Ralston couldn't do it fast enough, causing a lineup, she says the owner told her not to come back without help.
I said, are you telling me because I'm disabled I can't shop here? And he said, yes, it's for the best.
No Frills franchises are part of the Loblaw group of companies. When Ralston complained, Loblaw apologized, telling her she could come back, but she needed to call ahead to make sure someone was available to help her.
I'm an adult. I'm not going to phone to get permission to go shopping.
It also offered her $100 in compensation if she promised not to take action against the company.
They can keep the $100. I'm gonna tell anybody and continue with my human rights action.
An advocate says what's needed are accessibility laws that set standards for all companies. Only 3 provinces have them. The only recourse in those who don't are individual human rights complaints.
It's a very slow way to make change in society, one person at a time.
In an email to Go Public, Loblaw says it took immediate action when it heard from Ralston and addressed the issue directly with the store owner. The company has an accessibility policy online, but it tells Go Public it only applies to corporate grocery stores, not franchises. The No Frills owner wouldn't answer questions, calling it a human resources thing. Ralston says telling her story publicly was hard.
I don't like having my picture taken or anything, but I was so upset by this that I wanted everyone to know.
And while head office did apologize, she says she's still waiting for an apology from the store owner. Rosa Marcatelli, CBC News, Calgary.
Well, still to come, the captain of the Newfoundland Growlers in an off-ice brawl.
The ECHL is still considering disciplinary action after this racket in Brampton over the weekend.
Welcome back. Well, now turning to local sports, the ugly side. The captain of the Newfoundland Growlers was benched before the game even began on Sunday. Just check out this hockey brawl. Now, the Growlers were on the road in Brampton, Ontario, as James Melindy skated back to the team dressing room with some choice words there from the fans. Now, he had to pass the opposing team, and that's when he exchanged words with Brampton Beast defenseman Mike Folks. And that turned into that exchange of blows that you're watching. Well, neither Melindy nor Folks ended up playing in that game. Now, off the ice, is this considered an assault? Well, the league is reviewing the incident and will rule on any disciplinary action.
Well, still with sports news, Team Canada secured 2 huge wins at the Fiba Basketball World Cup qualifiers at Mile One Centre. On Sunday, the team defeated Venezuela a whopping 95-55. On Thursday, the team beat Chile 85-46. The 2 games were the first Team Canada has ever played in this province. The World Cup happens this summer in China. And Alberta has issued a health alert for a handful of locations in and around the Edmonton International Airport. The notice comes after a person with the measles stopped for a layover in the city during a flight from Vancouver to Inuvik back on February 12th. The person, who was infectious at the time, posed a risk to passengers on 2 flights, the passengers in 2 shuttles, shoppers at a Walmart, and travelers staying at a hotel in Leduc. Health officials say people who were in those places at the time may have been exposed, and they should monitor their health for any symptoms up to about March 5th. Similar warnings have already been issued in Vancouver and Inuvik. All right, so here's today's viewer photo of the day. I know it's not an especially beautiful pic like we normally have, but there was just something about this shot that made me smile.
It's the 2 eyes looking at you.
That's right.
It is. A snowy bit.
Face in the ice. I'll let you know where this was taken after the break.
Well, some of the ladies behind CBC's Baroness von Sketch show were in St. John's over the weekend.
Yes, co-creator and star Aurora Brown and 2 of the series directors mingled at a meet and greet with other women from the local film industry on Saturday afternoon.
And as part of the Seen and Heard series for the St. John's International Women's Film Festival over there was also a public event later that night which sold out not once, but twice. And organizers say they just hadn't anticipated how popular it was all going to be.
Or we didn't realize how popular it was going to be. I mean, we knew it was going to be popular, and we've been trying to get women from Baroness von Sketch here for a couple of years. But we sold out in a couple of hours, and then we moved to a new venue. We added, 150 seats, and we sold out that in a couple of hours. So, we had this huge wait list of people wanting to see it. So we're excited to do a little teeny meet and greet now, so at least, some good networking and outreach, and to introduce that team to more local creators.
I'm always excited to talk to other creators, and especially female creators, just like help, you know, like, I don't know, like if somebody gets inspired, that's really excited. Alicia Young and Jordan Canning, who both worked with us previously, and also we just finished shooting our 4th season with the 2 of them. So I kind of wish that we could bring the edits that we're working on that of course nobody will see till the fall, but like I wish we could show you guys everything that we're working on, because it's exciting. It's exciting to make something and then talk to other people about making their thing, you know, like it's, I'm excited about that.
Oh, looks like a bit of fun there.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people too.
Absolutely. They're funny.
Yeah. Yes, I've seen some of it.
Yeah, it's good. Well, let's have a look at our viewer photo. And I said before the break that this one just made me smile because of the unusual.
Yeah, different shape, 2 eyes staring at you.
Yeah, and the.
So where is it? I have no hope.
No, there is really no indicator.
Yeah.
This was Ochre Pit Cove.
That's what I was going to say.
Oh, it was so obvious. I just like the look of the face. You know, how many people might look when they look out the window this evening to see all of the snow there. So Doris Mead sent this in to us. So thank you very much, Doris. And if you have a photo, please email it to us at nlphotos@cbc.ca.
All right. Well, you certainly earned your pay tonight.
Yes.
Take a break, and we'll see you back tomorrow.
Good night, everyone.